Today's lesson is free money for all. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're talking about something called free money. Okay, that sounds really good. It sounds like we've all won the lottery at the same time. Boy, wouldn't we like to do that, have a whole bunch of money, so much money that we don't know what to do with it. And yes, can we have free money for everybody? Is that possible?
I don't know if it's possible, but it's certainly an idea that I've been hearing people talking about over the last few years. The idea that with more automation and AI and things like that taking jobs away from people, maybe governments will soon have to just give people money no matter what, even if you've got a job or even if you can't find a job. I mean, in a lot of places, they will give you a minimum amount of money to pay for your needs, your food and your housing and whatnot. Pretty soon, they say that they would be giving money to everyone. Basically, the government would be giving you a basic amount of money every month to pay for the things that you need because it will be such a struggle to find a job and to find the resources that you need to support yourself and pay for your life. They call it universal basic income. Let's find all about it in our article.
Free money for all? Imagine a world where everyone, whether employed or unemployed, receives a guaranteed monthly payment. That is the promise of Universal Basic Income, UBI, an idea that, if implemented widely, could change society for the better.
大家好，第一部分介绍形容词 universal， 指全体的、普遍的或是全世界的。例如 The new law was met by universal agreement. 这条新法律获得全体同意。或者The television series has universal appeal. 这部电视影集具有普世的吸引力。
Okay, the first paragraph asks us to imagine a world where everyone, whether employed or unemployed, receives a guaranteed monthly payment. So imagine that. Think of a world where everybody gets money every month, whether they're employed or not. This is a guaranteed monthly payment. If something's guaranteed, they are sure that you're going to get it. You will receive it for sure. If you don't get it, you could probably sue them or something like that. So yes, indeed, imagine that. If the government gave us enough money to live on every month, wouldn't that be wonderful? We wouldn't have to be employed anymore. We could be unemployed. If you're employed, of course, that means you have a job. And if you're unemployed, that means you don't have a job.
That is the promise of Universal Basic Income, UBI, an idea that, if implemented widely, could change society for the better. This is certainly what the supporters of this idea would be saying. Yeah, a promise of a universal basic income would make life better. Universal meaning it affects everyone. Okay, so we're not talking here in sort of an astronomy kind of space science way about the universe, all the planets and galaxies that we know to exist. No, here on the Earth, when we talk about something that's universal, it basically means it affects or is done by everyone. Universal human rights is the kind of thing we might think about here. You know, everyone has the right to live the life they want and worship the way they want and say what they want, and those are some of the universal basic rights that we think people have, no matter what country you're from. If you're a human being, you have these rights. So that's the idea here with this universal basic income, an idea that, if implemented widely, could change society for the better. So the writer here is basically saying if we do follow this plan or this idea of having UBI, if it was implemented widely, in other words, put into effect widely in all the countries of the earth or most of the countries on the earth in the world, it could change things, change society, change the world we live in for the better. It would be a positive change. It would be an improvement if, as I said, implemented widely. To implement is basically to take a rule or a law and actually put it into effect. You might have a rule that hasn't been used in a long time, or it's only used in emergency situations or something like that. But if you decide to implement that law, it basically means you're going to use that law now. You're going to have it in effect in society.
Yes, so if this law goes into effect, it could change society in certain ways, but we're saying here it could make society better. This, of course, is controversial, which we'll talk about in the next paragraph. So let's get to it. Let's listen to the second part, and then we'll talk about it.
Today, hundreds of millions of people worldwide live in poverty. By providing enough money to cover basic needs, UBI would ease the huge pressure these individuals face simply to put food on the table. But UBI wouldn't just be good for those struggling to make ends meet. Since it grants financial security to everyone, UBI would also give people greater freedom to learn new skills, start businesses, or seek better opportunities. Those against the idea often argue that UBI would encourage laziness. Yet studies suggest the opposite. A recent study in California found that the rate of full-time employment among UBI recipients actually increased from 28% to 40% in just 1 year.
第二部分看到这个副词 worldwide 表示全世界或是遍及全球。例如 The movie gained popularity worldwide. 这部电影在全球获得了人气。或是 That girl is known worldwide as an amazing actress and singer. 那名女子以身为一位了不起的女演员和歌手而闻名于世。接着看到动词 grant 指给予、授予或是准予。例如 The manager granted the employee additional time to complete the project. 该经理给予员工有额外的时间来完成专案。也可以说 The reporter was granted permission to interview the politician. 那名记者获准采访这位政治人物。下一个介绍形容词 financial 表示财务的或是金融的。我们可以说 Shane often asks Kathy for financial advice. Shane 经常向 Kathy 请教财务方面的意见。又或者说 The company is a financial group that offers many banking services. 该公司是一个提供许多银行服务的金融集团。
Okay, so let's continue talking about UBI, Universal Basic Income. And today, hundreds of millions of people worldwide live in poverty. If you live in poverty, of course, you're very poor. You don't have enough money to survive. You might be homeless or something. And if we talk about something being worldwide, that just means all over the world. So even in first world countries or countries that are well developed, we still have people who are poor and they're homeless. I've seen homeless people here in Taiwan, although not nearly as many homeless people as I've seen in the U.S. But of course, people all over the world are suffering from poverty. They are too poor to afford basic necessities in life.
Or, of course, they may be working and still have trouble paying all of their bills every month. And the things that they can buy, especially things like food, are unhealthy. So these are problems, as Roger said, that do exist in wealthy countries as well as, more obviously, in poor countries. So it says by providing enough money to cover basic needs, UBI would ease the huge pressure these individuals face simply to put food on the table. So we're not going to be paying you, a huge salary with UBI. We're giving you just enough to cover basic needs, things like your food, your rent, your basic bills, basic health care, things like that. So just to make sure that no one is falling through the cracks of society, ending up sleeping under a bridge or in their car, having to skip meals. I mean, there are families that have to choose between eating or heating. We're going to eat today or we're going to heat the house in the winter in a cold part of the world. Choices like that are absolutely terrible. So UBI would help to ease the huge pressure these people or these individuals face, a lot of the troubles that they have to deal with daily, weekly, monthly, problems like putting food on the table. In other words, providing enough food to eat, having the money to afford basic food to feed themselves and their families.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, you want to put food on the table. We could also say you want to make ends meet. You want to get by. But UBI wouldn't just be good for those struggling to make ends meet. Okay, that's what I just said here, to make ends meet. Basically, it just means it's good for those kinds kinds of people, but it has other benefits as well. Since it grants financial security to everyone, UBI would also give people greater freedom to learn new skills, start businesses, or seek better opportunities. So that is true. A lot of people are simply stuck in life. They're just trying to make ends meet. They're trying to put food on the table. They're just trying to pay their bills. Maybe they're living from paycheck to paycheck, and they just can't get ahead. They'd like to learn a new skill like a carpentry or something, or plumbing, or learn a new language to improve their career, but they just don't have the time. They're struggling to make enough money to survive. And yes, indeed, it will grant financial security to everyone. So to grant here just means to give, especially when we're talking about something that is given to somebody for a special reason. You might be granted permission to do something if you ask for permission, like from your teacher or from your boss. And in this case, it will allow people to have financial security, security with your finances or with your money, the money you use to pay for your expenses.
Basically, yes. If you're not stuck in that sort of dead-end job that you hate, that pays you very little money, is very difficult, but you need it in order to buy food and pay for your rent. So if you didn't have those pressures, you could spend your time working on other things that you're more interested in, start your own business, learn new skills, go back to school because you don't have to work so hard, and things like that. Look for better opportunities. Improve yourself and your situation for both you and your family. That is the idea, that is the hope, that UBI would give people suddenly this freedom because they're not worried about buying food and things like that. Now, those against the idea often argue that UBI would encourage laziness. Yes, you often hear the same argument against many government programs, like if we give people money if they're unemployed, they'll just stay home and watch TV and stuff like that. A common thing you often hear in politics. I don't think real life actually matches to that. Most people who can work want to work. And it says, yet studies suggest the opposite. So even though some people might say, oh, if you give people UBI, we're just encouraging people to be lazy, encouraging them to just stay home and do nothing all day. But the studies, when they've actually done research, it suggests the opposite. It actually suggests no, if you give people UBI, a basic income, they'll actually go out and do things now that they have options.
Let's go to California now. A recent study in California found that the rate of full-time employment among UBI recipients actually increased from 28% to 40% in just 1 year. So this is some research that was conducted in the U.S. state of California. We're talking about people who are engaged in full-time employment. They work a full-time job, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week or more. And yes, indeed, if you are a UBI recipient, that means you are receiving money from the government for your daily expenses. Again, that's the universal basic income. And yes, they actually took more full-time jobs based on this survey.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the next part of the article.
In short, UBI is more than a financial safety net. It's an investment in people. By empowering individuals, UBI could help create a society that is both fairer and more economically dynamic. Perhaps the 21st century will see the first nations step up and fully implement this possibly game-changing financial system.
第三部分看到名词 investment， 意思是投资或是投入。例如 Josh lost most of his money in a bad investment. Josh 在一场失败的投资中失去了大部分的钱。再看一个例子Sheila sets aside $400 each month to use for investments. Sheila 每个月拨出400美元来投资。继续看到副词 economically， 它表示在经济上，从经济角度来说，或是节约的。可以说 Joe has always been a very economically responsible person. Joe 在经济方面一直是个很有责任感的人。也可以说 Using your own car in the city doesn't make sense economically.Because the bus and subway are so cheap. 在城市里自驾在经济上没有意义，因为公车和地铁都相对便宜。最后看到 dynamic 这个形容词，指充满活力的、精力充沛的，或是不断发展变化的。举例来说 The dynamic new restaurant was an instant hit. 这间气氛活泼的新餐厅很快就大受欢迎。
Okay, here's the final part of our article for today. Again, we're talking about universal basic income. And in short, to summarize, UBI is more than a financial safety net. It's an investment in people. Okay, so of course, we might be thinking it as a financial safety net. There are people out there that will be taken care of. The homeless will have a place to stay. If people need an operation or something, they'll be able to afford it. They won't have to just simply die on the steps of the hospital. Everybody will be taken care of. So yes, it's not just financial safety or financial security, but it's also an investment in people. Now, to invest means usually you buy something like stocks or something in the hope of making more money. You might invest in a business, for example. The business might make money and you'll make money in the process. And in this particular case, we are investing in people. We are basically letting people be healthy and able to survive, and therefore they will attribute things to society and will all benefit as a result. It's an investment for all of society.
That sounds like a good thing that would definitely improve people's lives and, yes, hopefully improve society at the same time. By empowering individuals, UBI could help create a society that is both fairer and more economically dynamic. And that definitely sounds like a good thing. If you're empowering individuals, you're basically giving them the power to do things that maybe before they couldn't. It could be through sort of a legal process, like a badge and a gun and a uniform, and the law empowers a police officer to tell you to stop your car or something like that. They have the power to do that. If you have an education, that could empower you personally to go out and learn new things and get a better job and make more money and stuff like that. It can also be used in kind of an encouraging kind of way, right? If you really support someone, or if you feel that the people around you support you and love you and care for you and want you to do well, that can be very empowering on a more emotional kind of level as well, right? It's giving you strength and courage because you know that if you have a problem, people will be there to pick you up or to have your back or to help you out or something like that. But basically, by giving people more ability, more skills, more power to do things, UBI could help create a society that is both fair and more economically dynamic. Fair in that poor people will have a chance. It won't just be the rich people and their children who get all the benefits of the society. Poor people will as well. And it will also be more economically dynamic. You'll have more small businesses and entrepreneurs, right? People will have more time to set up businesses either online or physical stores. So that will make the city or the country more economically dynamic. Economically meaning talking about business and finance and how money moves around society. And dynamic meaning it's changing, it's evolving, something is always happening. When countries have, a few big companies and the companies aren't expanding or growing or doing well, that country's economy isn't very dynamic. Things will slow down, jobs will disappear, people will have to work harder for less. But if it's economically dynamic, that means new businesses are always opening, new investment opportunities are always there, and new jobs are always being created.
Yeah, imagine all those voices or all those people who are silent because they're stuck in poverty. If they didn't have that problem anymore, we might have some great new writers and musicians and business people who are now currently stuck working full-time jobs trying to make ends meet. That would certainly make society more dynamic. And perhaps the 21st century will see the first nation step up and fully implement this possibly game-changing financial system. So at the current time, there's no country that is really doing this. So in this century, the 21st century, the 2000s, we might see a nation or a country step up. They may take the opportunity, they may be the first one, and they will fully implement this possibly game-changing financial system. If you're talking about something that makes a big change in society, we call it game-changing. You could also say it's a big game changer, okay? Something that totally changes everything, and then everybody will have to adapt to that, and things will be different from now on. It seems to me that Taiwan maybe tried this a little bit before. I think the government gave people money during the Ma administration many years ago. That's kind of an example of that, but this would have to be all the time, every month. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes Henny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始写到 Imagine a world where everyone 怎么样怎么样，就是想象一个世界，在这个世界里每个人都怎么样怎么样。那这个动词 imagine 它就有想象、设想的意思，后面可以接名词、动名词，或者是接由 that 或是 WH 疑问词所引导的名词子句。那我们这边造2个例句。Imagine a world free from pollution. 想象一个没有污染的世界，哇，那该有多好。It's hard to imagine what it'd be like to live on another planet. 好难想象住在别的星球会是什么样子。好，那么课文第2部分提到说，今天全世界有数亿人生活在贫困中。文中它用到 hundreds of millions of people 来表达数亿人。我们这边来补充相关的数量表达法。先从 dozens of， 它就是指数十个的，或者是好几打的。Hundreds of 是指数以百计的， thousands of 是表达数以千计的，那么 tens of thousands of 是表达数以万计的， hundreds of thousands of 表示数十万的， millions of 数百万的， tens of millions of 数千万的，还有 billions of 是数十亿的，以此类推往下。那么它们后面要记得接复数可数名词，只是要注意，有时候这些用法呢，并不代表实际估计的数量，而是在强调它的数量非常多。好，那我们这边也补充几个跟 million 相关的常见片语。第一个片语是 not in a million years， 这是表达说这辈子都别想，门儿都没有的那种意思。第二个是 one in a million， 100万中的一个，就表示是很特别的人事物。第3个片语是 thanks a million， 表示感激不尽。那第4个 feel like $1 million， 或者是 feel like $1 million bucks， 表示感觉很棒，其实就跟 feel very good 的意思差不多。读到课文第3部分最后一句 Perhaps the 21st century will see the first nation step up， 或许在21世纪，我们将会见证第一个国家采取行动。句子里面的 see 是表达经历、见证，或是表达是什么什么的发生时间或地点，那它是及物动词，主词通常会是事物。例如 The industry has seen enormous changes over the past 2 decades。这个产业在过去20年间经历了重大的转变。那么至于 step up 在这边是当不及物用，它字面意思是走上前去，那可以引申用来表达挺身而出去做某事，或者是在有需要或有机会时采取行动。像 Matt decided to step up and take responsibility。 Matt 决定站出来承担责任。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Guarantee. Matilda guaranteed that the event would start on time. Universal. Education should be a universal right for all children. Implement. We need to implement a new strategy in order to meet our goals. Grant. Vincent asked for extra time to finish the report, and his request was granted. Financial. She is looking for financial advice to manage her savings. Recipient. Emma Stone has been the recipient of various acting awards in recent years. Investment. The company made a large investment in new technology to improve production. Dynamic. New York has a dynamic culture that attracts visitors from all over the world.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Okay, here's the question for today in our discussion starter. Do you support the idea of providing everyone with a universal basic income, UBI? Why or why not?
I'd say yes, I think UBI is a good idea because we're already seeing in some places job losses because of technology, things like AI and robots, automation, and I think that problem is only going to get worse. So in some ways, I think having a basic understanding of UBI, a basic system, how it works and how it can work better is a good thing to do now because I think these problems, driverless cars and trucks will be coming soon. Many jobs will be lost to automation and technology in the future. So I think if we kind of get on top of this problem or get a handle on it, get an idea of it now, that would definitely benefit us in the future.
Well, it does sound good, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. No, given that this money will be coming from the government, I don't support the idea of providing guaranteed monthly payments to everyone because, again, the government will control that money and the government will hence be able to control people and it will become a big dictatorship. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.